Have you ever had that feeling that your mind, your true self, is something more than just the physical gray matter in your skull? That our biggest, most powerful feelings, like love or awe, can't just be boiled down to a bunch of firing neurons? Well, if you have, you're definitely not alone. It's a deep, really powerful intuition. But what if that feeling is actually a kind of trick our brain is playing on us? Okay, let's get into it.
This quote from the researchers just nails it, doesn't it? We don't feel like we're a biological machine. It feels more like we're the pilot in a vehicle, the classic ghost in the machine. It perfectly captures that super common feeling that our consciousness is something separate, something that's in control of our physical body. So that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. When you fall head over heels in love, is that just happening in your neurons, or is it somewhere more, immaterial? Today, we're going to unpack a fascinating series of studies that looks directly at this, and it reveals a pretty surprising conflict that's happening inside all of our heads.
Right, so to get to the bottom of this, scientists first needed a way to sort through our mental experiences. I mean, not all thoughts and feelings are created equal, right? They had to figure out a way to isolate what they call the feeling factor.
And that leads us to this really crucial concept, first-person subjective experience, or FPSE. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's the what-it's-likeness of something. So for example, I can describe the color red to you all day long, but I can never truly share my private internal experience of seeing red. That unique quality, that's FPSE. And the key here is that some experiences, like love, are just soaked in FPSE, while others, like doing a math problem, have almost none. This chart here makes that difference super clear. Over on the left, you've got your high FPSE experiences. Falling in love, feeling that sense of awe watching a sunset. These things are intensely personal, they're subjective, and they're really hard to put into words. Then on the right, you have low FPSE. Reading a map, recognizing a friend's face. Those are more like functional, cognitive tasks. They just don't have that same rich, internal feeling to them.
Okay, and here is the first huge clue. In one study, researchers asked people where these different experiences come from. See the pink bars? That stands for attributing it to a material source, the brain. The blue bars, that's an immaterial source, like the soul. Now, on the left, for those low-feeling tasks, the pink brain bar is way higher. But look what happens on the right for the high-feeling experiences. The blue soul bar gets way more of the credit. It seems like the more intense the feeling is, the less we think it's just our brain doing the work.
So we know what we do. We split our experiences between the brain and the soul. But the next and maybe more important question is why? And this is where the story gets really interesting, leading us into this tale of two minds that are basically operating inside each of us. So check out this really clever experiment researchers set up. They used a two-step method. First, they made people answer with their immediate gut instinct as fast as possible. Then they let them take their time, think it over, and give a second, more considered answer. This design is so good because it lets us pull apart our fast, intuitive thinking from our slow, analytical thinking.
So what happened? Well, for the low-feeling functional stuff like reading a map, the gut answer and the thoughtful answer were pretty much the same. It's the brain. No real conflict there. But for the high-feeling experiences, something really fascinating happened.
This chart shows the internal battle. Just focus on the high FPSE section on the right. The orange plot, that's the fast gut instinct answers. See how they're lower on the materiality scale? That means they're more soul-based. Now look at the green plot. That's the slow, deliberate answers. You can see a clear shift upwards, back towards the brain. This is the key evidence for what psychologists call intuitive dualism. Our gut reaction screams soul, but when we actually stop and think about it, our logical mind goes, no, it's probably the brain.
Okay, so our gut instinct is a dualist. Fine. But why does any of this matter in the real world? Well, this internal conflict has a pretty major consequence. It creates something the researchers call the science barrier.
To put it simply, if your gut is telling you that a core part of who you are is immaterial and soul-based, you're naturally going to be a little skeptical that a materialistic field like science could ever fully explain it. It creates this invisible wall, almost suggesting that some parts of the human experience are just off-limits to science.
And the research found a really direct connection, which you can see laid out right here. The more we see something as brain-based, the more we believe science can explain it. And on the flip side, the more we see it as soul-based, the less we think science can ever really get a handle on it.
So is this just two things that happen to be correlated, or is one actually causing the other? Well, in another study, they tested this directly. They told one group of people that scientists had discovered a brain basis for a certain experience. And just look at the chart. The lighter bars show what people believed before. The darker orange bars show the results after they were told about the brain basis. For both low and high feeling experiences, the belief that science could explain it just shoots up. This shows a direct causal link. Tell someone the brain is involved, and they are much more likely to believe science has the answers.
All right, let's bring all these pieces together. We've seen how the intensity of our feelings, our gut reactions, and even our beliefs about science are all connected, and it all seems to point to the powerful presence of our inner ghost.
So the big takeaway from all this research seems to be that the feeling of having a soul, this ghost in the machine, isn't necessarily evidence of something supernatural. Instead, it seems to be a powerful and, let's be honest, a very convincing illusion that's created by our brain's own fast, intuitive system. It's a feature of our cognitive architecture, not necessarily a feature of the universe itself.
So let's just quickly recap the journey we went on. Our most intense feelings are high in what scientists call FPSE. That intensity triggers our gut intuition to say, that's the soul talking. But our slower, more logical thinking can actually correct this, shifting the explanation back to the brain. And it's that initial gut feeling that creates a barrier, making us doubt that science can ever truly explain the things that matter most to us.
This research really gives us a whole new lens to look at our own beliefs. It shows that some of our deepest convictions might not be as straightforward as we think. They might actually be the result of a battle between our fast intuitions and our slower, more reflective mind. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. What other beliefs in your life might just be a battle between your gut and your brain?